Hey there, muffins! So in the spirit of Halloween, I decided to share with you 3 horror stories from the Bible. And trust me, it was a pretty difficult choice because there's just so goddamn many of them, but I think the ones I decided on are maybe not as well known. I chose the first one because I think it's kind of unintentionally funny. The story is about Samson, and this is a guy that God is crazy about. I mean, he's given special powers. At one point he defeats an entire army with just the jawbone of an ass. Only 2 weaknesses did Samson have. One of them is trusting untrustworthy women. The other one is his hair. I'm not even making this shit up. So this one time Samson makes a bet with 30 men. He tells them a riddle, and if they can solve it in 7 days, he will give them a bunch of clothes. The men cannot solve the riddle on their own, so they go to Samson's untrustworthy wife, and she gives them the answer eventually, and so they win the bet. But then Samson starts lamenting that they could have never solved the riddle had it not been for his untrustworthy wife. Was that proper English? Now, of course, one can argue that Samson only asked for the answer to the riddle. He never told them that they're not allowed to go get help. Or that the bet was unfair to begin with, since by Samson's own admission, the riddle was impossible for the men to figure out on their own. But nevertheless, when they find a way around it, Samson gets all butthurt, so the Spirit of God comes upon him and strikes the 30 men dead and takes away their clothes, because gambling? The second story I have is quite similar to the one where God is testing Abraham. You know, when God asks Abraham to sacrifice his only son as a burnt offering, but then steps in the last minute and stops him, and he's all, "I was just testing you, old fart," because it's not like I'm all-knowing or anything. Well, in this story, God helps Jephthah defeat his enemies after Jephthah promises God that he will sacrifice in his name the very first thing he sees when he gets home. Unfortunately, that thing happens to be his only child, his daughter, who comes to greet him dancing. So of course Jephthah is like, crap, fuck, shit. And the daughter is like, well now, daddy, if you promised, you promised. I'm gonna go cry now for a couple months and then you can kill me, okay? And God was like, child sacrifice, ooh. Now, unlike with the story of Abraham, this time God doesn't intervene, and instead the daughter is burnt alive as a sacrifice. Of course, with a mandatory mention that she was still a virgin, because perverts. The third story I want to share with you is especially horrific, and this one too is very similar to another far more popular story. The one where 2 angels disguised as humans spend the night at Lot's house, and the wicked men of Sodom surround Lot's house and demand for his guests to be sent outside so they can rape them. However, Lot offers up his virgin daughters instead. I guess he didn't want to be a bad host or anything. Fortunately, the angels saved them. Of course, later on the virgin daughters have sex with their daddy in a cave and become pregnant by him, which is not relevant to this video, but I wanted to mention it anyway. Anyway, this story starts out in a similar way. A man is traveling with his concubine and they get taken in for the night by this old man. And they eat and drink and everything's fine, until the wicked men from the city surround the house and demand that the traveling man be sent outside so they would rape him. Sounds familiar? The old man begs them not to do such a vile and outrageous thing, so instead he offers up his own virgin daughter and this guy's concubine, because that's far more reasonable, because yays. And this is where things go different. The traveling man throws his concubine out and she is gang raped all night. To death. Now, the next morning when he wakes up, I guess after a good night's sleep, because what's there to worry about, he goes outside and finds his dead concubine on the doorway. So, of course, he then proceeds to cut her body up in pieces and send them around the country, because reasons. That's it for today. Please let me know in the comments below what is your favorite horror story from the Bible. And if you'd like to watch my previous video on Ark Encounters, you can click right there. Or to watch a short film type of video I did for Halloween a couple years ago, click somewhere here. Happy Halloween!